Hi, everybody. I'm hoping I can see your comments and figure out if I actually have sound today. Uh, I'm trying to do this without using my phone, and it's a whole new setup. So if you're able to use your your mobile device, trust me that it's a lot better setup. There is a delay in my audio and things, and so I will try to respond to comments and things like that. Oh my gosh, hi Mary. Oh, I'm working. Okay, this is epic. Okay, so that's a whole new thing. Okay, well, while people are popping on, what I want to do today is this LilyPad Lake card. I recently did it for a card swap, and I got several private messages for a tutorial for it, and since I'm so new at doing tutorials, I thought, okay, well, I'll try it. But trust me when I tell you this is much, much simpler than it appears to be. The several private Oops, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure I don't lose you guys, and I think I just did. But hopefully I didn't. I'm so sorry. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to pray that I have sound and everything is working correctly. What I did is I started with the standard A2 card base, folded at 4 1/4, and then I took another Whisper White cardstock, and this is measured 4 by 5 1/4. When you do this, there's a new die set that came out last year called Sliding Door, and it went to the barn door set. And on this, they have a little rectangle. And when this came out, it made my world absolutely amazing simpler. Because before, when I wanted a spotlight, I would usually use my Stampin' Trimmer, which if you don't have this die set, you can do this with your Stampin' Trimmer. But now that they have this rectangle die, or you could actually do any shape that you would like on this for whatever window you'd like. You could do ovals, anything you'd like. So what I did was I laid my die where I wanted it, and I apologize for the lighting, everybody. I had to move away from my craft space to be able to film this, so the lighting's a little poor, and if I knew how to adjust it, I would. Aloha, Michelle. That's awesome. So what I did is I laid my die where I wanted it. And on this die, you will see, I don't know if you can see it very well in the camera, but the actual die cut is on the inside of the image. So what I did was I lined it up where I wanted it. You could probably even use washi tape, but it's not going to be on here very long. And just take and mark a little mark in pencil on your inside corners, because what that's going to do is tell you where you want your stamped images to appear. On this one, you'll see I stamped the images off so that some are on the frame. I kind of just like that effect. So once you've done that, and you bring in your handy dandy Stamparatus, which this makes short work of doing multiple cards of this type. So what I did, originally, before I did the lines, I used to just lay my die on here, figure out where I wanted it, but then I found my magnet stuck to it and made it difficult. So you're going to take your images, and you already know where your cutout's going to be. So you want to lay your images on your set. And I know that my horizon which I'm going to show you how to do this horizon, is kind of be toward the middle of my scene. So I had to have these little lily pads in here because I just think they're adorable. Okay, hopefully everybody's still with me. And then I want my boats to be on the horizon of him, of my little heron. And once you stamp or put your images on there. Now when you're using the Stamparatus, I know that somebody may be looking at it going, why are you using the pad? I personally find that the pad still works when you're using your clear mount. I like using the pad because I seem like I get a darker image right off the bat. If you don't want to use the pad, you don't have to use the pad. You can always stamp more than once. So when you're doing what I use for this, oh, I'm so stumbling here. As you see, I did some coloring. And since I did use some blend, alcohol blend markers, I like to use Memento ink because when you use Memento, it won't bleed with alcohol. Sometimes when you use regular ink that's not a crafting, your black or whatever color you're using will bleed with the alcohol marker. So we start image on there. Oh, my boats are crooked, but we're going to work through this. And then what you do is, and I've done this to save you some time, you already know where your marks are for when you go and you run it through your big shot. Because see, oh look, my boats are crooked, but this is live video, so there you go. And you're going to cut that out. So, I've saved you a little time, and I've already cut it out. Because my space is really small over here by the computer, so I didn't have my big shot set up here. So you're going to end up with this. You're also going to end up with this. And I'm going to explain what I did here. Now, before you start sponging, you have to mask your images. What I did is I masked my images to get a real nice bold white on my bird and some white on my sails, and then was able to color them. There's two ways you can mask that before you start sponging. Let me get paper here. What I used here is called a masking liquid. I don't know if I'm going to show that right in the camera. It's by Molotown, and it's an art masking liquid. You simply put it on your images, and I'll show you really quick how I did that so that you know. Or you can always cut out your mask, because there is a coordinating die set that goes with this stamp set. So you can simply take a yellow sticky or sticky note, cut out your mask, and put him on your bird. I would suggest if you do it this way, you can actually just kind of trim off his legs so that you don't end up with a lot of light around his legs. So you would lay him on there, and then I would just trim right there because the ink's not going to hurt his black legs. You do the same with the boats. You just put your masks on there and you would sponge. But I'll show you why I like this masking liquid. Oh, hi Barbara. Oh, Liz. I after watching your video, Liz, I'm really amateur here. So anyway, with this masking fluid, you simply get your fluid out. I have a refill bottle. This pen right here has a lid where you can just put it on your image and do it. But that's not a fine enough tip for me. So all I do is put a little bit of this liquid on a piece of scrap. I have a little dedicated brush I use. I am really sorry about the light, you guys. I'll work on that. And all you do is put a little liquid on your brush. You're just going to paint your little guy. It's going to be wet when it starts. And if you're trying to stay in the lines, I would do better than that. So anyway, you just paint all your images. And it's going to dry. I'll move it out of the way. When it dries, you end up with this. It doesn't come off, but it will come off when we're done with simply a adhesive eraser. You're going to be amazed how this works. When I found this stuff a few years ago, was hooked on it. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or in a craft store. I wish Stampin' Up! Carried it. So anyway, let's do our horizon. And this is where we start our sponging. So you pick where you want your horizon. And normally what I like to do is I like to start with my lighter of my images and where my horizons and things are going to be first. So I'm going to start with the sky. And I know I want the horizon, my boats, to be in the water, so I'm going to go a little above the boats here. When you use your grid paper, if you line it up on your grid paper, you can actually line your line straight across on the little dots. So you have a straight line. I mean, this small a piece, you can pretty much eyeball it. So what we want to do today, we're going to use, obviously, the new colors because I just love how bright and beautiful they are. I'm going to get all of these open and ready. So we have Pineapple Punch. We have the new Balmy Blue, which is, to me, I just love the new blue. And we're also going to use Mango Melody, and these are going to be the three colors that I'm going to use on the sky. I should leave my card out where you guys can see it. I've just started using daubers, and I really like it. I've always been a big sponge fan, but I find that I get pretty good saturation with the daubers, just a little bit different than sponging. So I'm just learning to control how to use my daubers versus the sponges. So I want to start with my base of my light blue. My balmy blue, I guess, is the easiest way to call it. My balmy blue. When you're sponging, I always, if I know that I'm going to have highlights, where I've done kind of darker with some center, where my light is showing, my focal light is through the middle of this image. So I know that I'm going to start off to the side. When you're sponging or daubing or any of that, I always start off the paper, especially with new ink pads, because as you see when I daub it here, it's going to be a little concentrated, and to avoid getting a big blob, then I just start off the paper. And I know I want my sides to be a little more, and then I'm just going to carry some blue up. See, if I was doing a regular video, I probably would have sped this up for you so you didn't have to watch this, but it's kind of good to know, because you're going to see how it's all going to blend. So I start with my blue. It doesn't have to be, because you're going to work it. And then I've got yellow sun in my center, so starting off, you're going to start from your lightest to your darkest. And it's good to go into the other blue. Oh yeah, my new dauber case is going to come in very handy, Mary. I'm super excited about getting it. Especially, it was just like perfect timing, because I just started using daubers. So I want to carry some of my yellow to give it just a little bit of green. And then I really like adding kind of the orange to the upper, to my, it just adds, if you don't want to use orange, you can use like the, what's the new Merlot, or something like that. It adds a very, very nice touch to it. But this was kind of a simple, and I wanted to use the new colors. And I'm wanting my edges to be a little darker, so that's why I'm starting off my paper. Because I want it to be a little more defined. And after you've done it, you can carry it down. It's just going to add a little bit of blending accent. Okay, so now you've got your basic. And because I'm a little OCD, I'm going to add just a little more blue highlight in here. And we're going to get a little more blue when we start our ocean scene. Also, using a sticky note holds it down to your paper. So it really helps. So here we have our horizon. Doesn't look like much. Then you're going to take, you can use the same sticky pad if you want. But when you are putting it to, you want to mask your horizon. Leave yourself, I'm going to see if I can get this to show up on camera. But I'm just a very micro small part of the horizon still showing, because that's going to add a little bit of dark to that area that's going to give you a defined horizon. And then if you obviously have to have it straight. So I don't know if you can see that. There's a very small gap where the horizon is still showing. And then we have that. So we're going to move. We're going to stick with the balmy blue. We don't need the orange or the yellow right now. But you're going to love this. Blueberry bushel. Because that's, and usually I line mine up from darkest to lightest. And we're also going to use some Pacific Point. So I'll put my balmy blue, move these. I've got my blueberry bushel dauber. Look, I even had to label them. Because I used to have a lot of daubers and I forgot to label them, so I never knew what went with what. This is my balmy blue and this is my Pacific Point. So I always want to start with the lightest. And we know that we want it to blend into the horizon up here. And we're still going to remember your focal point is down the middle. So that's going to be our lighter where we're just going to drag. And with this masking fluid, nothing is going to get on your images. And we know we want to blend that little line, so that's why we're starting up there. And as your dauber gets a little drier, you can drag it into the middle. But we know we wanted our darkers to the edge. When you're doing water, so I start off the edge, I'd like to drag across because it's actually, it doesn't do it as much with daubers, but it will do it with a sponge where it's going to give you kind of that water flow look. And you know, guys, I'm not even looking at my comments, so I hope this video is still working, but I'm just gonna go with it and hope it worked. Okay, now we're gonna add in some Pacific Point, which is our medium blue. And we're gonna still come off the edge. We want our edges a little darker. See, when you streak it like that, it kind of gives it a water streak. Oh, I almost put that in my wrong ink. That's why I kind of start light to dark, because if I do actually take a light one and accidentally stick it in the dark, then I'm kind of messed up. See, we still have our light in the middle, but it's still got a little bit of blue. So we're doing great there. I want a little more dark around my boats and my images. You ever notice when you're doing video, things don't go as smoothly as they used to? Or, you know, when you're normally doing it, normally something like this is much quicker for me. But now I'm just trying to talk, I guess, why I do it. Maybe I'm not a multitasker. So we're going to take the blueberry bushel, and this is where I want to add some of my darker highlights. This blueberry bushel is going to come across really quick and fast. And since it's a new ink pad, it definitely inks up very fast. Add some of my ocean streaks. I should have my cell phone on because I don't even know if this is working, but I guess we're just going to go with it. Okay, I'm going to do one more pass with the light blue just to blend. I just want to blend all this in with the balmy blue. And when I remove my mask, we can carry our balmy blue right over the line, and it'll kind of, it'll blend that line, just come over the edge of it a little bit and carry it up, and it'll give your horizon a little blend there. Add my water streaks. Okay, so we're going to go working with them. On the card, you'll see I did some little, kind of looks like water waves, I guess you want to call them. That was simply done very easily with, let me close these inks because I really don't want to get it all over the place. Do you guys not love the new ink pads and how they open and close? I just love it. Love, love. Okay, all I did for my water, if you have a white gel pen or any kind of, I use the Stampin' Chalk chalk marker. The reason I use this one is it has a tendency to be a little more subtle, a lot of and forgiving when you're doing water. If you do a white gel pen, you're going to get, I found I get globs of white. So all I'm going to do with my chalk marker is I want to add a little bit of water waves. Our boats are sailing by. Get my chalk marker to start working. Oh, did I seriously grab it? One that, no, it's not dry. There we go. And it's okay to go over this because your masking is going to hold it or protect them. And then just as a little highlight, I take my clear Wink Estella. One, because it works also, because there's alcohol in your Wink Estella, it kind of works like a blending factor. So all I do is go over my little white lines just a little bit. And then, plus if you hold the card up, it kind of looks like your water is shimmering. Just add a little in. Okay, there we go. Then, with this masking fluid, all you have to do is take your adhesive eraser, which I kind of buy these in bulk because I use glue a lot and it gets everywhere, so this thing works amazing. I'm not even positive, and apologies if anybody knows if Stampin' Up! Still has these adhesive erasers in their catalog. I should have looked. So then when you simply erase it, it comes right off. See how? And it gives you this nice bold image. Good upsell. What am I upselling? The adhesive eraser. Thanks, Liz. You cracked me up. There is a delay, so I'm not sure when you said that. So I got my little boats and my... And apparently I didn't mask that boat very well, but that's okay because I'm going to be able to color it with a marker. But see, when you mask, then your color's going to look perfect underneath. Okay. Uh-oh, did I freeze? Am I not working? Am I not there? Alright. Alright, let me know if I'm back. Okay. On my little heron, I use my blends markers for everything, and I'm dying for the new ones to come out. Been saving some of my flex points so I can get all the new markers. For my heron, I kind of like... Sorry, I didn't get everything off of him. So I'll just show you quickly. When you say like I want, because my heron is going to be colored on this side and white here, I thought, well, he needs to have a little color. So all I did is take my very light gray Stampin' Blend and add a little bit of highlights to him. And if it looks too dark, which sometimes it will if you're just trying to do a subtle shadow, because I do subtle shadows on my images with grays and blues, just add a little bit of, just take your Stampin' Blends, what do they call this thing? Color lifter. And just lightly go over it. And you got to remember that when you're using your color lifter, it's not going to show super fast that the color's been lifted. As it dries, it fades it out. So I'm just fading out the edges there so that it's not so bold. And then on my lily pads, I simply used the rich raspberry. I love this color. To get accents, I use my dark. I'm one of those that when I'm using Stampin' Blends, I go from dark to light. And all I'm doing is adding some dark highlights to these. And then take your lighter rich raspberry and you're going to blend. So if you go from dark to light, just pull it up, it's going to blend it together. I know it's kind of subtle, but to me, everything's attention to detail in my world. So if I look at a flower and it's all kind of one color, I'm like, oh, I didn't highlight that. And then for the boat, because I didn't have blends, for the boats all I did is use the Stampin' Right markers that coordinate with the colors. So I got Mango Melody. I did use the Lovely Lipstick, and this one is Green Apple Green, Granny Apple Green. I absolutely love this color. So all I did is I'm going to pick one sail, and since I didn't mask that one well, I'm going to color this sail Granny Apple Green. My apologies that I didn't mask this very well. Yesterday I tried to do this live video and I was all prepped. You know, you have to prep to get up your nerve to do a video. Well, at least I do. Some of you guys are really good. probably don't need, it's probably like a second nature to you. So basically that's what we do there. And I decided I wanted just my boat bodies to be black, so I'm just going to use my Stampin' Right marker. Color my boat bodies black. So you have option to color those. I should have had my brown marker out. I would have colored the little, like I did on this one. I just added, so you had multiple colors in there. So now, there you go. There's your image. This is kind of how simple this is. But somebody asked, what I did is I laid my image in here, and I could not for the life of me, and if somebody knows which set it is, has the seagull birds in it. I would love to know, because for some reason I don't have it inventoried. And so all I did before I mounted this is I wanted to add some little birds in the horizon. So I just take your marker, make a little V, quite simple, and I wanted one of them to kind of carry off the page. So if you would have had the stamp set, you can just lay it out and put it on your stamparatus and stamp your birds. So that's like the whole card, that's simple. Now, to mount it on my card base, you know where it's going to go here, okay? And you could do it reverse. You can do this way and pop up your center, or you can do like I do, and I like to pop up my outer frame. What I used for that, and you can use regular Stampin' Dimensionals, but I like using the dimensional strips. I'll show you why. Because when you have such a big space, you can actually take your strips and lay them right along the edge of your window, which will kind of keep it more sturdy, especially if you're mailing your cards. Hi, Shauna. Oh, see, I'm on a big delay, so I'm trying to figure out how to see if you guys are commenting and if you had questions or not. I will go back through the video if you have questions and see how it goes, or see if I can answer them. Yeah, when they came out with these Stampin' Dimensional strips, it was wonderful because, especially if you did shaker cards. Oh, this would make a cute shaker card. And all you would do to change this to a shaker card is add a piece of window sheet in here before you put this on, and boom, you have a shaker card. I like to go ahead and stick with the same dimension. You probably don't need to use very much. I'm just kind of winging it here. You can use regular dimensionals around, hi Sue, around the edge part. Probably easier, but to me the strips are already out, and I'm kind of I like to use a lot of dimensionals. I think somebody saw one of my videos before. It's because I had been to somebody's house one time that I mailed a card to, and I skimped on the dimensionals pretty bad, and the card had collapsed in the mail, so I was kind of embarrassed. The only good thing about it was family, so they knew better than to throw it away. They have to say I like it. I'm just saying. I have good family. They collect all my stuff. And we're going to take all these off. I did this yesterday, and I have just dimensional strips everywhere right now in my room. Okay. So now, I like to line this one up first. And you want to make sure it's right side up, because I almost put it upside down. And I'm going to line this up. And I already know it's a quarter inch. So if I line up my two corners and my top, the rest is kind of going to fall right into place. You can use your adhesive eraser for dots. So there you have that. And what I did here is you can use your tape if you want, but I use glue because to me glue is forgiving to move it just a little bit. You have just a little bit of give way to move your image. So put my glue on here. That was probably overkill, huh? And then I want to take, and I'm going to start at the top, slide it in there, and I know I want to line up my little bird. Hopefully I didn't just put my head in the camera, you guys, sorry. Make sure my boat line looks straight, and lay it down. So you have just a little bit of wiggle room to move it to make sure that your lines on everything are lined up. And there you go. And I messed up, and I'll just own that right now. I did a greeting, thinking of you. This is in the stamp set. And the only reason I probably won't try to stamp it now on this video, I would suggest before you put your dimensionals on and get ready to lay this out, that you stamp your greeting first. Because now if I try to stamp, see how cushy it is? I might be able to do it with my Stamparatus. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. In the stamp set, you have this greeting, thinking of you with loving thoughts and prayers. I just love that, but I wanted the thinking of you, and then I can carry the with loving thoughts and prayers to the inside of the card. So you grab your Stamparatus. You could do this with a stamping block when you're before you mount it. But I'm going to use the Stamparatus because it's going to give me the opportunity to restamp it if it doesn't stamp clearly. So line up your greeting where you want it. And since I'm only using part of that, I'm going to line it up about right there. Get your stamp on there. Make sure it's straight. And then you can just use your Stampin' Write marker and pick the part of the sentiment you want. Stamping with markers, another technique. And since this has got dimensionals on it, huff on it, keep it wet. See if it'll stamp, you guys. If this video goes right, and this even stamped, well, I may have to take myself to, oh, look at that. A little crooked, but you get the gist. So it did work. Having the Stamparatus helped. If it didn't stamp clearly because of the dimensionals behind it, I would just re-ink it and touch it up. So I believe that is today's card. As you see, it's much more simple than it appears, and there's several different ways you can do it. Here, I did basically the same thing, but I added a little something by just using my square framelits and cut out a few squares and then inlaid it on there. You could actually keep your centerpiece full size, and then when you lay the top piece over, you just have a little added extra. This technique is also the same. All I did is, instead of the big wide frame, I just made a little frame, and I call it spotlighting or reverse spotlighting. So there's a multitude of things you can do with it. So I hope everybody liked the video, and would love your comments.